There was no sunrise anymore. Just a dull red haze where the sun used to be, filtered through the remnants of the upper atmosphere. Acid rain fell in irregular pulses. The air smelled like rust and static. Jalen Virek stepped off the drop shuttle and into a wasteland of twisted metal and silence. He adjusted the seals on his mask, tightened the grip on his rifle, and began the long walk toward the last place anyone had heard a human voice. Zone 7. Sector Delta. Where the signal came from. 30 years after the collapse. Earth wasn't supposed to be habitable. The war was over. Technically. The Shroud had made sure of that. A being, an entity, an infection from somewhere beyond the edge of known space. Not quite alive, not quite dead. It came like a whisper into every listening ear and bloomed into terror. It didn't kill people directly. It made them doubt. Doubt what was real. Doubt who they were. Then it rewrote them. No one knew how many remained on the surface. Maybe none. But 3 days ago, a signal came through, encrypted with an old Pathfinder military key. A name attached. Ella Virek. Age 10. Status, MIA, 6 years. Jalen froze when he first saw it. Because that was his daughter's name. And that was his encryption. The dead zone. The city once known as Chicago was now a fossil of bone and steel. Jalen moved through the skeletal towers like a ghost. No animals. No wind. Just that low-frequency hum that everyone who'd fought the Shroud came to hate. Like static bleeding through reality. His motion tracker chirped. He paused. A shape flickered on the far side of a broken skybridge. A humanoid. It stared at him. No eyes. No mouth. Just skin stretched too tight, and a faint glow inside its chest, pulsing in rhythm with his own heartbeat. He didn't blink. And it faded away. Echo, he muttered. Already this deep. Ghosts and guns. Inside an old transit tunnel, he found what remained of Outpost 9, rusted barricades, scorched walls, and the stench of burned flesh. He swept the room. Clear. Almost. Then a voice crackled through the static. Jalen. He spun around, rifle raised. No one. Only his own voice playing back from a broken comms unit. We shouldn't have left them behind. They beg us to stay. He crushed the comm under his boot. He remembered that moment. Too well. Flashback, the last evac. We can't save them all. That's what the commander said before sealing the doors and launching the final evac shuttles. Jalen had carried Ella, screaming, as the gates closed behind them. His wife hadn't made it. Nor had Razor. Nor the rest of Pathfinder Unit 3. He told himself he had no choice. He told himself survival mattered. But the signal had come from inside the place they'd abandoned. And now he couldn't lie to himself anymore. Contact. He reached the old calm tower by nightfall, though night was just a deeper kind of darkness. The console sparked to life, barely functional. He plugged in his uplink. Ping. Signal verified. Origin, Sector D9. Identity, Virek Ella. He stared at the readout. That encryption key could not be faked. He reached for his radio and sent a blind burst to orbital. Command, this is Jalen Virek. Pathfinder 02. I'm initiating deep retrieval protocol. Possible survivor. Identity match confirmed. No reply. Just static. He stood in the flickering light of the console. Alone. Except, not quite. From the shadows behind him, something breathed. Not air. Not noise. But memory. Ending line. He turned, rifle raised, eyes wide, but already knew what he'd see. Nothing. But something saw him. The darkness was thicker here. Not the kind born of absence, but of intention. It swallowed Jalen's flashlight beam as if it fed on it. Every step through the ruined hallways of Zone 7 felt heavier than the last, as though the walls themselves remembered what had happened here, and judged him for surviving it. He kept his rifle steady. Kept his breathing controlled. Kept telling himself it was just a mission. But it wasn't. It was penance. The signal. The hallway widened into what had once been a transit junction. Rubble covered the tracks. Collapsed stairways led into deeper darkness. And in the center of the room, blinking faintly beneath layers of dust and ash, was an old military beacon. He crouched beside it. Wiped the screen. It blinked a single message. Signal located, Sector D9. Source verified, subject, Jalen Virek. Timestamp, 3 days ago. He stared at it, throat tightening. It was her. Not a trick. Not an echo. Before he could move, the sound of shifting metal echoed above. He ducked behind a half-toppled pillar. A shadow slid across the ceiling, long, limbless, like smoke with purpose. It paused. Then slithered deeper into the dark. He didn't move. Not until the air stopped vibrating. The other survivor. He pressed on. Sector by sector, checkpoint by checkpoint. The lights flickered. The walls breathed. More than once, he saw movement in the corner of his vision, but when he turned, nothing was there. Then he found her. Curled behind a shattered security door, breathing shallow and ragged. Her face was pale, eyes sunken, body wrapped in a torn jacket marked with Pathfinder Unit 16. She saw him. Tried to speak. Failed. He knelt beside her, checked her vitals, weak but alive. The moment he touched her shoulder, she flinched violently. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. She shook her head, eyes wide. "Are you real?" Jalen hesitated. "Yes." A long silence passed between them. Then she whispered, "I'm Tessa. They're in the walls." Wounded shadows. They moved together now, slowly, cautiously. Tessa had seen the Shroud firsthand. Lost her entire squad in the first hour. The things they'd fought weren't made of flesh or metal. "They used our voices," she said. "Used our faces. I shot my own brother. Thought he was already dead. He begged me not to." Jalen said nothing. Just listened. They entered a lower chamber, half-flooded, light shattered. Ancient monitors along the wall flickered on as they passed. The screens displayed faces, his old squad mates. They looked out at him. Blinking. Waiting. "Razor," Jalen whispered. On the screen, Razor's mouth moved. A message scrolled beneath. "You left us." Tessa stepped back. "What is this?" "Shroud playback loop," Jalen muttered. "It doesn't just feed on people. It feeds on moments. Replays them. Rewrites them. And you've been here before. Long enough to know what guilt smells like." The echo arrives. They turned a corridor. And froze. At the far end stood something tall and twitching, its body barely visible, like a smear on a camera lens. It didn't walk. It vibrated. Its outline flickered with static. An echo. Not just a memory, but a fragment of the Shroud's intelligence, mimicking form, feeding on recognition. It shifted. Faces rolled across its surface. His team. His daughter. Himself. Tessa whispered, "That's not possible." Jalen raised his rifle. "Don't look at it. It learns faster if you do." But it was already moving, not toward them, but around them. Studying. A dozen voices spoke at once. "We remember what you did. We remember who you left. We remember her name." Then in Ella's voice, "Dad, why didn't you come sooner?" Fire and flight. Jalen opened fire. Rounds tore through the echo's unstable body. It staggered, not from pain, but from uncertainty. That was the secret. These things were powerful, but they weren't confident. They wanted belief. Recognition. Fear. He didn't give it that. "Move!" he shouted, grabbing Tessa's arm. They sprinted down the corridor, echo wailing behind them, its cries glitching like corrupted data. He threw a flashbang behind them. The hall bloomed with white light. Then silence. The descent deepens. They rested in a supply alcove, sealed tight, old rations and decontamination kits still intact. Tessa stared at her shaking hands. How do we fight that? Jalen reloaded in silence. You don't. Then why are we still moving forward? He met her gaze. Because she's still in there. Tessa didn't argue. She didn't agree either. But when they left the room, she followed. Final scene. As they reached the elevator shaft into D9, a news signal pinged across Jalen's wrist pad. A voice. Crackling. Weak. Ella. Dad? I see the lights. But they're not right. I think I'm dreaming. Please come get me. Tessa looked at him. Is that really her? Jalen didn't blink. It better be. And below them, deep in Sector D, something woke up. Jalen's boots crunched through debris and bones that hadn't been there minutes ago. The walls twisted when he wasn't looking directly at them. Every step brought more static in his ears, more memories that weren't his, or maybe were. It was hard to tell anymore. The halls flickered like a film strip coming apart, one moment rusted steel, the next, a hospital room. He saw his wife. Holding baby Ella. Smiling. That was before the sky burned. He blinked hard. Gone. The closer we get, Tessa murmured behind him, the less real this place feels. Jalen didn't respond. He was too focused on what lay ahead, Sector D's central chamber. The signal from his daughter originated from there, the same place the Shroud first bled through. The same place he left his squad to die. Memory residue. The Hall of Echoes. They turned the corner and entered a long, silent hallway lined with shattered helmets, a memorial made by no human hand. The names engraved weren't names. They were thoughts. Half phrases etched in metal. I wish I'd said goodbye. Don't tell my sister. It wasn't supposed to go like this. Tessa reached out to touch one. Jalen grabbed her wrist. Don't. Her eyes widened. Why? They're listening. Behind them, the sound of footsteps. Fast. Panicked. Jalen turned his rifle toward the corridor behind. But no one was there. Only a voice. His own. You could have saved us. You had time. Descent into Sector D. The stairwell to Sector D pulsed with red warning lights and oily black growths pulsing like veins. Gravity fluctuated. Tessa stumbled, clutching her head. They're in my memories, Jalen. I see my brother. He died on Europa, and he's talking to me. He knows things he shouldn't. Jalen steadied her. They'll use your worst days against you. That's what the Shroud does. You sound like you've met it before. I have. They stepped through the final door. The core. The chamber beyond felt impossibly vast, as if space folded inside it. A spire of data cables and bone-like structures twisted upward, holding a sphere of shifting light. Inside the light, a figure. Small. Frail. Floating. Ella, Jalen whispered. He took a step forward, then stopped. From the dark, a voice echoed. You came back. It wasn't Ella. It was deeper. Older. Layered in distortion. The Echo's sovereign emerged from the far side of the room. A skinless silhouette formed of tendrils and light, draped in echoing memories. Voices overlapped from its shape, soldiers, children, lovers, all warped, all wrong. They spoke in unison. You left them. You saved yourself? Why save her? Jalen leveled his rifle. Tessa stepped closer, staring at the orb containing Ella. She's the anchor, she said. That's how the Shroud's still alive. It's feeding through her. The Sovereign smiled, though it had no mouth. We offered her peace. No memories. No pain. She accepted? Jalen shook his head slowly. No. If she really accepted it, I wouldn't be standing here. The lights dimmed. Suddenly, the world vanished. The false life. Jalen blinked. He was on a beach. The sun shone warm. A breeze rolled in. Ella, younger, alive, untouched, ran toward him. Dad! She cried, arms outstretched. Tessa stood beside him, smiling. No scars. No fear. Just peace. It was perfect. Too perfect. His rifle was gone. His armor. Even his memory of the war was soft, dulled at the edges. He turned. A man stood at the shoreline. His face was familiar. Razor. Why go back? Razor asked. You earned this. We all did. I left you. You survived. You begged me to stay. You did, Razor said with a sad smile. But what matters is you came back. That's enough. Stay here. Jalen dropped to his knees. Tears in his eyes. I want to. Razor placed a hand on his shoulder. But you won't, he whispered. The illusion cracked. Breaking free. The beach shattered like glass. The real world came back. Flickering lights, screaming metal, Tessa shouting his name. Jalen! It's got you! He looked up. The Sovereign was closing in, tendrils reaching, ready to take his mind again. Jalen stood slowly. You fed me lies, he said. But the thing about humans is, we don't forget. Not the love. Not the pain. Not the guilt. He raised the thermal spike from his belt, the one thing he saved from the dead drop bunker, and stabbed it into the Sovereign's shadow. The echo screamed. For a moment it staggered. System reactivation. The field around Ella flickered. Her body dropped to the chamber floor. She twitched, then opened her eyes. Dad? She whispered. Jalen ran to her, dropped to his knees. I'm here, he said. I got you. She looked at him, confused, scared. I remember everything. I heard them. I know. I didn't want to forget you. The walls groaned like something ancient dying. Tessa slammed her hand on the broken console again. Jalen, if I reroute power to the override, it'll trigger a cascade failure. Will it kill the Shroud? He asked, rifle raised, eyes fixed on the glowing entity in the chamber's heart. She hesitated. Yes. He nodded. Then do it. Above them, within a pillar of writhing light and energy, Ella floated, limbs limp, veins glowing silver, her eyes fluttering like she was lost in a dream. Behind them, the Echo's Sovereign emerged fully, no longer hiding its form. It had shed the stolen faces and adopted one of its own, something impossibly tall, skin like cracked porcelain over pulsing light. Wings of memory stretched behind it, images, people, screams. Its head twitched with 1,000 voices, like it was always whispering to itself. And to them. We offered you freedom, it said, voice a chorus of the dead. We made your grief into peace. But you wear your sorrow like armor. Jalen stepped between it and his daughter. You don't get to use her. The Sovereign cocked its head. Why not? She called us. She wanted to forget you. He didn't blink. Then why did she remember my name? The Shroud screamed. System overload, 23%. Tessa shouted from the console. If we don't leave now, we don't leave at all. Jalen turned to her. Get out. No. I stay. He looked at her. Tessa's eyes held fear, but no hesitation. Like she'd made her peace. Like she'd known from the moment she joined him what this was going to cost. He nodded. Then help me finish it. He ran toward the containment field. The energy scorched the floor where he stepped, his armor flaring in protest. His daughter's body twitched inside, suspended in light, her mouth barely moving. He reached the control pylon and slammed the override key into its slot. The entire facility screamed. System overload, 67%. The Sovereign shrieked in fury. The air grew thick with voices. All around them, illusions burst like bubbles, his squad mates, his daughter as a child, an unbroken world. Temptations. We can give her back to you, Jalen. Perfect. Whole. Happy. He turned toward the Echo's Sovereign. No. He raised his hand, showing the data spike. You don't get to rewrite us. And then, he stabbed it into the command relay. System overload, 91%. The lights exploded. A flood of raw human memory, death cries, last thoughts, The sounds of families torn apart rushed into the shroud's core. The echo's sovereign screamed. Its form buckled, unable to digest what it had swallowed. You turned grief into fire, it howled. Yes, Jalen roared, stepping forward, eyes wild. And you burned the wrong species. The chamber detonated in light. Aftermath, unknown time later. Jalen woke up outside. Sunlight, real, unfiltered sunlight, bathed the broken spires of Zone 7. The sky, once a sickly gray, now shone soft blue. The shroud was gone. Its tendrils, its fog, its whispers, silent. Next to him, Ella stirred, curled beneath a thermal cloak. Her veins no longer glowed. Her eyes opened slowly. Dad? He touched her cheek, nodded. Yeah. I got you. She blinked up at him. Was I part of it? You fought it, he said. Even when I couldn't. Her voice trembled. Where's Tessa? He didn't answer right away. They buried Tessa beneath a blackened tree, high above the ruins. He placed his dog tags at the base of the stone they carved with a knife. Tessa June, one of US. Ella sat beside the grave long after her father walked away. Final scene, orbit alien ship. Lithakar observation node 22. Automated report, subject, humanity. Classification, high-risk psychic species. Observation, humanity demonstrates unstable psychic patterns when exposed to echo constructs. Rather than collapse into compliance, subjects respond with aggressive emotional recursion and memory weaponization. Notably, humans exhibit refusal to forget trauma, willingness to sacrifice the self for the intangible, family, guilt, hope, ability to project emotional damage as a hostile anti-memetic defense. Conclusion. They do not fear the void. They teach it to fear them. Recommendation. Do not engage. Let them burn quietly. Or they will teach us to scream. Final line. The shroud tried to consume us. We made it choke on everything we couldn't forget.